So many people wonder what's our purpose here in this world? And there's one very simple answer. The answer is be fruitful and multiply. This is God Almighty's essential command to all of humanity. In fact, the very first command in the Torah and the very first blessing in the Torah is to be fruitful and multiply, for human beings to increase and the world to be teeming with human beings. It's God Almighty's vision that this world should be filled with billions and billions of human beings thriving. 8 billion people, that's just a good beginning. But we're way behind schedule. And why are we way behind schedule? Because some people have a lack of understanding and a lack of trust in God Almighty's abundance. And therefore, they join what we call the cult of scarcity. And in the cult of scarcity, they promote the idea that the world is short of resources, the world lacks space, the world lacks resources, and therefore they try to convince people either voluntarily or eventually they'll try to actually force people to restrain themselves from having children. And they will institute population control measures. And we see that already taking effect in the world with the tremendous number of sterilizations, some voluntarily, some forced, the tremendous number of abortions, the massive amount of family planning, they call it, which is just an excuse to actually just go against what God Almighty is saying, which is that the main purpose that we're here for is to bring children into the world. And instead, what we do is we get involved in our calculations. We get involved and lost in our calculations, starting to figure out what's going to be, how's the future going to be, how's this child going to be raised, and that's where we get ourselves into trouble. And then we lose the opportunity to experience God's blessing. So when we are looking around the world and we see that there's people who have what we call the population control agendas, which when people really understand what it is, people don't like it. But then people don't really have a plan on how are they going to respond to it. Well, there's only one way to respond to that, and that is by having children and encouraging everybody to have children, regardless of their race, regardless of the country they live in, regardless of their economic status. Every human being is worthy of reproducing, and that's God Almighty's message for every single human being. So when we look and say, how are we going to turn the world around? We have to return the world to that fundamental commandment, that fundamental commitment to do what God Almighty wants, regardless of what our human intellect tells us, regardless of what human logic tells us, regardless of what human calculations, observations, and measurements tell us. We do what God Almighty wants, and that's why it's a command in the Torah. It's a command to be fruitful and multiply. And this applies to every single human being. You can contact me if you like, info@rabbismith.org, and I'm happy to share with you the sources for that. So the way we're going to build the world on a better foundation than the past, we can't go back to the way things were before, because the way things were before is what led it to be the way it is now. If we don't like the way the world is now, it's because it was a way before, and before that, for thousands of years of misguided thinking. Our job is to really establish the world on a proper foundation of recognizing the way above human intellect, way above human observation, way above human understanding and measurement is God Almighty, and He is not just above us in the sense that He is superior to us in that sense, but He is in us, He's around us, He's everywhere. There's nothing besides God Almighty, as a matter of fact. Our job is to be conscious of that and then to take action based on that. What is the divine command? How does God want me to conduct myself now? Regardless of how my intellect wants to guide me, regardless of how I'm feeling, whether I'm in the mood for it today. The fact is, once we tether ourselves to that godly command, then the world is on a stable foundation. Then the world is going to experience what we call the ultimate messianic redemption. When every human being is going to recognize God Almighty, the sole occupation of the entire world is going to be to learn Torah, to learn about God Almighty, to learn the divine wisdom. And there'll be no more war, there'll be no more struggles, there'll be no more competition, there'll be no more health problems, no more psychological problems, all the difficulties that we face in this world because of the critically crippled thinking that we put on a pedestal and rely on. Once we've scrapped that and realized that we want to make ourselves a vessel for God Almighty's divine commandment and His wisdom, He has created us. He's creating every single human being for a purpose. And that purpose is to bring more beautiful human beings into the world. So I want to encourage you to take action, to create a family, bring children into the world. You can learn more about what we're teaching at rabbismith.org, and also we have Rabbi Smith at Substack. You could read my Substack articles. And at rabbismith.org, we are bringing classes on a regular basis to help each person ground themselves in this understanding, to ground themselves in this knowledge that there's nothing besides God Almighty. There's nothing to be afraid of, and the way forward is to increase. So God willing, we'll go from 8 billion people to 80 billion people, and we'll go from there. God bless you all.